So the Spanish army was sent out to try to put these revolutionary movements to an end. The leader of the Spanish army at this time was a man named Agustin de Iturbide. He was put in charge of a force that was sent to the area of Oaxaca to stop the revolutionary movement that was being led by a man named Vicente Guerrero. And so Iturbide is going to lead the Spanish army down into Oaxaca, but he doesn't attack the revolutionary army. Instead, he calls for a meeting. And eventually, Vicente Guerrero agrees to meet with Iturbide. And at this meeting, Iturbide is actually going to make a deal with Guerrero. He doesn't want to fight him. He doesn't want to put down the revolutionary movement. No, Agustin de Iturbide, this leader in the Spanish army, actually wants to join the revolutionary movement. He wants to join forces with Guerrero. And he thinks that if they join forces, there's a good chance that they could actually gain independence from Spain. So finally, after negotiating with each other, they come up with a plan. And this is El Plan de Igaula. And this plan contained 3 guarantees, right? And so this is basically the agreements made by Guerrero and Iturbide and other individuals who were involved in creating the plan. Basically, they were trying to appeal to not just the liberals but also the conservatives so that everybody was on the same page and that you would have more people supporting the revolution. Okay, so what are the agreements that they made? What are the 3 agreements contained in El Plan de Igaula? Well, for one, once Mexico gains its independence from Spain, they are going to create a constitutional monarchy. That is going to be their form of government. It's not going to be a representative republic like you have in the United States. In the US, after their revolution, they created a republic, right? Where you just have representatives being elected into their political position and they're running the country. But the plan in Mexico was to create a constitutional monarchy, right? Where you would have a king, right? The king of Mexico. And so they agreed to create a constitutional monarchy where you would have a king, but you'd also have a parliament. And who is this king going to be? Well, the plan was to offer the position of king to Ferdinand VII. Yeah, the same king, the king of Spain. They were going to offer him this position of being king of Mexico. But the thing is, Mexico would be independent from the rest of the Spanish Empire. It would be its own monarchy. But they would still have the same king, King Ferdinand VII. And if King Ferdinand VII didn't want to accept this position, if he didn't want to accept the idea that Mexico was going to become a separate constitutional monarchy, an independent country, then they would just offer the position to another European prince, right? So this was part of the plan here. The plan is to make Mexico a monarchy, but it's a constitutional monarchy, meaning that they're writing up a constitution. There's going to be a parliament, with elected officials, but there's a king, right? And so who's going to be the king? Well, first we'll offer it to the king of Spain. If he doesn't accept it, we'll offer it to another European prince, right? This is the idea. This is part of the plan. The second guarantee, as part of the Plan de Igaula, is going to be the position of the church. The church is going to remain the official religion of Mexico. So basically it just reaffirms the position that the church already had in Mexico. It was already the official religion. The church already occupied a high place in Mexican society, and the church was going to remain in that position. Okay, this part of the plan was supposed to appeal to more conservatives. Conservatives wanted the Catholic Church to be the official church of the country, and so it's more likely that the conservatives will agree to this plan since the Catholic Church is going to remain in the same position as the official church of the country. And finally, we have the third guarantee. And this guarantee had to do with the Creoles and the Peninsulares. We talked about, remember, during the Bourbon reforms, that the Peninsulares, they occupied the highest positions in the government and within the church, right? Well, as part of this third agreement, you're going to have Creoles and the Peninsulares being treated equally. So now the Creoles will be able to occupy those high positions in the government and in the church as well as the Peninsulares. And so this guarantee is appealing to the Creoles so that they can now occupy high positions in Mexican society. Now, as part of this last agreement, you also have a call for the end of the casta system. Okay, the casta system we've talked about before. This was a system of racial hierarchy where individuals who had more Spanish blood were on top of the social hierarchy, whereas individuals who had more indigenous or African blood were at the bottom of the social hierarchy, right? And so, yes, the casta system was supposed to be eliminated so that you would have more equality in Mexican society. So it's not just equality for the Creoles, but it's equality for everybody. It doesn't matter your race. Okay, and so this is a major change. Now, this is appealing not just to conservatives, but also to liberals who wanted more equality in their society. A number of revolutionaries were calling for this type of equality, right? And so this is going to appeal to them. So if you put these three guarantees together, you have benefits for the conservatives as well as benefits for the liberals. And so this is meant to bring more support for the revolutionary movement. And this agreement was made between Iturbide, Guerrero, and other leaders of the revolution. Okay, so now they're going to join forces. The Revolutionary Army is going to be much more powerful, and eventually they are going to make their way towards Mexico City after taking control of a number of provinces in New Spain. Now, the viceroy of New Spain at this time, Juan de O'Donoghue, he realizes that the revolutionary forces are going to take control of the country. So, on August 24th, of 1821, he is going to agree to sign a treaty with the rebels, basically recognizing the independence of Mexico from the Spanish Empire. Okay, so at this point, the revolution is successful. Now that you have conservatives and liberals joining forces, ultimately you have the independence of Mexico from Spain. And so that's it. That's the victory, right? The revolution is successful. Mexico gains its independence from Spain after 11 years of warfare for this independence movement. Finally, it is over, and Spain no longer has control of Mexico. But after all those years of warfare, the Mexican economy was not in good shape, right? Because the wars really did damage to a number of different important sectors, such as the mining industry. Okay, so before the wars, the mining industry, this is where you got the most income coming out of Mexico, right? The silver mines, it's just pulling money out of the ground. Okay, and a lot of that silver was being exported back to Spain during the Bourbon reforms, yes, but there was still a lot of it that stayed within the local economy in Mexico, right? And so there was literally millions of dollars coming out of the mining industry. But when the war for independence started, you had a number of the mines being damaged. Okay, not only were the mines damaged and flooded because there was no one there to pump the water out of them, but you had a number of the workers who were working in the mines join the revolutionary movement. A lot of them actually turned on their bosses. Remember, we were talking about how there was really poor working conditions, right? They weren't getting paid a lot of money, very dangerous. Well, in some cases, they actually killed their bosses, okay, during the revolution. So there was a number of individuals who were running the mines who were killed, right? A lot of equipment was damaged as well during the revolution. And so you have the mines in really poor shape after the war is over. So now that Mexico has gained its independence from Spain, you have the government trying to revive the mining industry, but the mining industry is in horrible conditions, right? And so this is going to lead to less currency, less silver circulating in the Mexican economy. Because the mines are in such bad shape, not as much silver is making its way into the Mexican economy. Now, on top of this, unemployment is another major issue that's going on in the Mexican economy. There's not a lot of jobs available. I mean, think about it. After 11 years of warfare, the country is in really bad shape, right? And so there's not as many jobs available for individuals. The agricultural sector is also in a pretty bad place. Why? Because when the war was going on, you have revolutionary forces destroying a number of haciendas, killing the hacendados, the owners of those haciendas, destroying their fields. And it wasn't just the rebels, but it was also the Spanish army as well. Yeah, the Spanish army was also responsible for destroying a number of agricultural fields because they didn't want the revolutionaries to take advantage of that food, right? Because think about it, if you have an army, it's a lot of individuals, they're not working, they don't have jobs, where are they going to get their food from? They're going to go to these haciendas and they're going to take whatever supplies they need, right? They're going to take whatever foods they need. So in order to take away those supplies from the Revolutionary Army, the Spanish Army was burning fields as well, right? And so with all of this destruction of the agricultural fields, when Mexico does finally gain its independence, its agricultural sector is in horrible condition. All right, and so since there's not as many fields, the food that is produced there in Mexico is going to be very high priced. Right, when there's a short supply, the prices tend to rise. People have to pay more because there's not as much food to go around. And on top of this, say if you're trying to develop new industries in Mexico, that's going to be very difficult because there's not as much capital in the country. And when I say capital, I'm talking about economic resources, money, equipment, because the individuals who had the most money, who had the most capital, are leaving the country now. Who are the individuals who had the most money? The Peninsulares, right? They're the ones who had the best positions in society. They had the most highest paying jobs. And so because the revolution was successful, you have a number of Peninsulares leaving the country and they're taking their money with them. And so that money cannot be used to invest in the industries there in Mexico. All right? And so that's a problem. And why are the Spaniards leaving? Because they're scared, right? It's not a safe environment for them at this time. Remember, the revolution, one of the main rallying calls was death to Spaniards. So you don't really have a lot of Peninsulares wanting to stick around because they may be attacked, right? And so the Peninsulares are leaving the country, they're taking their money with them, and that means less money to invest back into the economy. And so for the few Spaniards or individuals who have money that are left in the country, if they are loaning out money, they're charging very high interest rates. Okay? Have you ever taken a loan out? Well, one day you will. And when you take out that loan, you're going to want to get the lowest interest rates possible, right? So that you're not going to have to pay back a lot of extra money on top of the loan that you took out. All right. And so for individuals who did have capital, who did have money to loan, they're charging really high interest rates there in Mexico. And so that is going to inhibit the growth of the Mexican economy. So the mining industry is in shambles. The agricultural industry is heavily damaged as well. There's high prices for food. There's unemployment. People don't have work. And there's no capital to invest back into the economy. You add all this together, and yes, the Mexican economy after independence is really not doing well.